It seems like bad news won't stop coming from Mick Schumacher. The German driver hasn't been able to capitalize on the last 2 weekends in Mexico and Austin, and he was given the deadline from Gene Haas and Steiner when it comes to the starting seat from 2023 on. With Mick's poor performance and an event that happened in Aston Martin that triggered our thoughts when it comes to Haas signing another driver, we are expecting some great news to transpire in the upcoming period. But the news will be great for Hulkenberg and not for Schumacher. What is this news and how big is the probability of them seeing the daylight? Mick Schumacher has been part of Haas since 2021, and back then we all thought he was this wonder kid who could outperform every driver in the proper car. Haas was everything but a proper car back then, and given the fact that Mick was outperforming Mazepin by 3 seconds in a qualifying session, rest assured that we thought the sky was the limit once Haas became competitive again. Haas did become competitive in 2022, as we mostly saw from Magnussen's performance. However, the team hasn't been able to capitalize on the latest race events as they have lacked the pace ever since the Austrian GP. But this is not what's bothering Haas when it comes to Mick's performance, as they cannot cope with the fact that he caused 2 crashes in Jeddah and Monaco that cost $1 million each. True, the team did give him an ultimatum of scoring more points, something that has been emphasized a lot by Steiner throughout the press conferences, but given the fact that Magnussen wasn't able to score points up until the Austin GP, with a long pause that started at the French GP, we're sure this wasn't the main reason as to why they are probably letting go of Schumacher. What are the news items that are so bad for Mick Schumacher that aren't directly related to his team? Well, Aston Martin has signed Stoffel Vandoorne as the reserve driver, and this role was previously held by Nico Hulkenberg. Aston Martin also signed Felipe Drugovich as its reserve driver earlier this season, indicating that they aren't likely to continue the deal with Hulkenberg in the upcoming period. Hulkenberg is considered the main candidate to replace Schumacher if the German were to lose his starting seat in Haas. According to Steiner, Schumacher has the advantage when it comes to keeping the seat, but he needs to score more points. According to reports, these points were supposed to be scored at the last 2 GPs in Austin and Mexico, and Steiner said they won't be bringing a decision in between these 2 Grand Prix. However, Mick's bad performance and him finishing way outside of the points section, as well as not being able to pass Q1 in both events, speak volumes as to how motivated he is to continue racing. What's even more depressing is the fact that Magnussen is performing badly too, but has a contract with Haas for the upcoming season. This means that although it's likely the car that is preventing Mick from performing well, he is just in a bad place at a bad time. Mick was close to renewing the contract with Haas prior to the Monaco GP, but the crash he caused back then made the team put a hold on the negotiations with Mick. On top of that, the young German driver hasn't been able to continue the talks with Haas after Alonso was signed with Aston Martin, as the American team saw the US-based team as the only one that they could lose Mick to. It seems like they were on the right track, and now Mick has a lot to deal with. He has 2 races remaining in Haas, and if he doesn't score points, it's likely that they'll sack him out of the team for good. Gene Haas said that although Mick is a driver full of potential, when your team isn't scoring points, you cannot crash the car like he does, adding, "We're just waiting. We need Mick to bring some points, and we're trying to give him as much time as possible to see what he can do. If he wants to stay with us, he's got to show us that he can score some more points. That's what we are waiting for," said Gene, who then continued to speak about Mick's crashes and his inconsistency throughout the 2022 season. In this sport, being kind of a rookie driver, the sport just doesn't allow it. It's just too expensive. If you make any mistakes in driver selection or strategy or tire selection, it is costing you millions of dollars. I think Mick has got a lot of potential, but you know he costs a fortune and he's wrecked a lot of cars that have cost us a lot of money that we just don't have. Now, if you bring us some points and you're Verstappen and you wreck cars, we'll deal with it. But when you're at the back and you wreck cars, that's very difficult. If he wins the next one, he's in. Somewhere in between, there is a grey area. And there you have it, the team's interest in Mick is really at the lowest point possible. And the fact that they have a driver who has a lot of experience, similar to Magnussen, waiting on the sidelines could be the deciding factor for Haas's future. The team called an urgent press conference prior to the USA GP, and although many thought it would be to announce Mick's future, the team announced new sponsorship with MoneyGram. According to Steiner earlier in this season, the advantages with Mick Schumacher due to the fact that he already has experience on how to drive the Haas car, which is exactly why they went in to extend the deal with Magnussen. Absolutely, if you're working with someone for 2 years, that's an advantage. The incumbent has always got the advantage. It's a home advantage. If you can have somebody you work with for 2 years, it's better than bringing somebody new in because, as I always said, you don't have the learning time. That's why we brought Kevin back as well, because he was there. He was out a year, but he knew everybody, and that's always an advantage when you start from somewhere. However, Steiner also said that he thinks very highly of Nico and that he is one of the candidates being considered as a replacement for Mick Schumacher. When talking about the older German and the chances of him being landed in Haas, Steiner said, "I spoke to him, Hulkenberg. I've known Nico for a long time, better than I know Daniel. We're talking, but nothing has been done yet. Our list includes drivers who have super license and we're looking at them all. Nico is one of them." Another driver that Haas would consider instead of Hulkenberg is Giovinazzi, but given the fact that he crashed during a free practice session, the team is unlikely to choose him over Hulkenberg. The last thing they need is a driver crashing in every second race, and although Giovinazzi's crash in a free practice doesn't mean anything, the team is very unlikely to take some risks just because he is younger than Hulkenberg. What doesn't go well in Hulkenberg's favor is the fact that he hasn't stepped on the podium in his career, which is truly a negative fact given the time he has spent in the sport and the experience he has. If by any chance Ricciardo decides that he doesn't want to sit out the 2023 season and instead wants to participate in the team, then the Haas seat would be more than open to him. That would be truly amazing for both Haas and Ricciardo, and we'll be able to see more out of him in 2023, and it will be a team that can compete for points. Still, Ricciardo's wish to sit out the 2023 season and come back in 2024 is something that remains his main goal as of now. This, however, is much easier said than done, as we saw what it took for De Vries to enter Formula 1 yet again, and in a less competitive team. Ricciardo's plans of coming back in F1 with a competitive team in 2024 are truly a far-fetched scenario. So if common sense kicks in, he might consider the Haas seat for the 2023 season. Steiner spoke that he would be the main candidate for the seat if he changes his mind, and the Italian also added that he has no idea why Ricciardo doesn't want to race for Haas in 2023. With that being said, it's evident that Schumacher's poor results have affected his future a lot, and that he'll likely be out of Formula 1 from 2023 onwards. It would be a shame if the sport got rid of a young driver like him, but his results are showing that he isn't built out of Formula 1 material, which is why he might see glory and joy in another competition. What do you think about Hulkenberg being Mick's replacement in Haas from 2023 and beyond? Let us know in the comments below.